this. Okay, cool. All right, great. These are my guys over here. Josh, Andrew, Jonathan. Today's Jonathan's birthday. He came out on his birthday. Yes. Happy birthday, Jonathan. That is real commitment. I love that guy. These are my guys. Josh is my uncle, so I have to have him around. But Jonathan and Andrew are great guys. Yeah, and we are on the 5th floor in the building here, so we're just one floor below. And my shout out to the Venture Center and to the Tech Park is that Ashley let me crash in the conference room with Jonathan before we had. Why are you shaking your head? No shout out.
We put more stuff in there.
Yeah, we crashed in there. We had early meetings, so it's cool. Like we're on the 2nd floor, and then we got in with these guys a little bit, and they let us hang out here, and we set up, and then we actually got funding and an office space on the 5th floor. So this has been a really cool community for us. A little bittersweet. We're moving over on top of Willie D's over the office furniture store next week. So, you know, we're sad to be leaving here, but there's literally no offices in here. So hopefully we'll have some people move into the Tech Park who do need this space to start up. And it's actually amazing. The space we're moving into has 8 cubicles, and it's over an office supply store. So we don't even have to buy any furniture. This is like the greatest thing ever. It's like having like your parents live in their, it's like living in your parents' basement. You're gonna just rolled up office chair stores. It's so great. Like you can't make this stuff up. And that's what I'm really trying to like say with the talk today is this is our journey, this is our story. My favorite podcast in the world is How I Built This, Guy Raz, NPR. It's business stories. I love this stuff. And so this is our journey to date. It is very much in process still. This is just hopefully the beginning of all of it. I will do the boring part and do like our little pitch deck first, just so y'all understand the context for this. Nobody wants to hear me talk about how we make lawyers who have money even more money. Like that's not like the most exciting thing in the world. Unless you're an investor, you're like, yeah, I'm in. But that is what we do. And I'm actually really excited about the mission. But we'll do that, and then we'll get into like actually how has this happened? How did we get to where we are today, and what are we thinking about, and what are some of the lessons that we've learned? So I'll dive right in. I think we have a little time for Q&A at the end, but feel free to also just throw your hand up, and I love answering questions as we go. So that's what we're going to do. So real quick, what is Lexamica? We're an afterburner for marketing for injury lawyers, which sounds kind of cool, but is very vague. So we'll get into that more. But just show of hands, how many of you know who the biggest billboard advertising firm in Arkansas is? You've seen them all over, everywhere.
Rainwater.
Rainwater, exactly. Rainwater is our target customer, right? So these are law firms.
888.
It's amazing. It's
9777. That's
There you go, exactly. So that's our target market are those folks, and I want to explain a little bit about how their business model works. It's fascinating. It's totally hidden. I had no idea that it existed until I got into this space. I started, and I'll talk about my own story in a little bit, but plaintiff's law, so that's law where the attorney is representing someone who's suing another entity, an individual, a corporation. That may be all you can sue, I don't know. I guess technically it's the government as well, it could be sued. But plaintiff's law includes things like car wreck cases, you've seen like Roundup on the Social Security Disability, workers' compensation. You generally know you've met a plaintiff's lawyer when you've seen a commercial that you think is totally awful. Why would anyone ever call that number? That's us. And those people, I actually love them. And the reason that I love them is because they are only getting paid when they win. So the greedier you are as a lawyer, the better you are for your clients, which is absolutely amazing. That's America, right? Like, let's align incentives and make this work. These business models are fascinating. As a business guy, 33% of the money in a law firm goes to the marketing, 33% to OpEx, which is very small, and 33% profit margins. So they're very profitable businesses. To get pretty esoteric, a big part of that is that there's a big moat, which is that only lawyers can own law firms. So all the equity is locked up with the lawyers that own these law firms, and so they're able to be very profitable. But that doesn't stop them from complaining about how competitive it is, which is hilarious. Like, that's all they want to talk about is how bad it is. And like, no, you guys should go and like try being an airline and see how much money you make then, because that's competition. So plaintiffs firms, they're all advertising these big campaigns. Rainwater's billboards are everywhere, all across the state, and they really just want like one thing, which is if you get a car wreck, they want to take your case on. That's what they're good at. But because you see them everywhere all the time, they're getting calls from like everybody, like people who hate their jobs, people who have family law issues, people who have just random stuff, like they're, a dog bite case, whatever, they get those calls all the time, and when they can't litigate them, they do what's called referring them out to another law firm. And so Rainwater sucks up all these cases, and then they send them out to other law firms that want to actually handle those cases, and they get a referral fee on it, which is actually pretty significant. It's about 1/3 of the total recovery of the case goes back as a referral fee. So it's not like a $5, as we joke in house, an expired Chili's gift card. It's an actual, or Applebee's. Yeah, I know. I'm not trying to hate on Chili's. And all of the cases are contingent, so you only get paid if you win. You guys have all seen the commercials. So this is our industry, and the last bullet to know about plaintiff side law is that the cases are valuable. So a small case in the space, $3,000 is tiny. That's like a little Social Security case. These cases can be millions of dollars. And so when a case is referred, you're talking about a significant transfer of value from one place to another. And it's a big, big industry. So just the top 100 plaintiffs firms alone are $1 billion in referrals. Single event referrals, billions, and the entire legal consumer market who are going to ultimately be referred is measured in tens of billions of dollars. So, I mean, none of you, I can say pretty confidently, maybe one or two of you in the room outside of this group right over here, knows anything about this, which is what's so fascinating. Because like a $50 billion market, most people have heard of that on some level, but this is totally invisible. So I knew nothing about it before I got into the space, but it's also like done really, really poorly. Like I said, this equity structure is weird. Law firms are owned by lawyers, not usually owned by people who have a business degree or a technology degree. And so they're very profitable, but also in a lot of ways, there's a lot of friction that remains in the space. So it's actually a great place to be if you're looking for a business to build. It's high profit margin. There's a lot of ways to improve things. And this is what we picked up on was the referral space. So this is the way that referrals are being done right now. It's very manual. There's 4 categories here. I broke it down into 3 on the first slide. But you have to figure out who to send a case to. You have to actually send that information. There's a lot of information that's sent. Track it. These cases can take 18 months, 24 months, sometimes 5 to 7 years, and then get paid on the case. And there's a lot of friction in that process right now. So what we did with Lexamica is we just eliminated the friction. That was the North Star for solving the problem right out of the gate was let's just remove the friction and see what happens and see if people will want to do more referral business, better referral business, if we can make them more money. So that's how we solve a big problem in this space. And here is this beautiful graphic that my designer, hi sir, hey, he's going to watch this recording. That's how awesome he is. He's going to watch this recording. He would hit me for putting this up here because I designed it and he did not. So, but to show you, there's law firms like the Rainwaters that generate inquiries and then law firms that handle the cases. And so they're sending leads out and what they need is updates on their case and they need money back. And we sit in between that. And a lot of law firms, legacy firms, are hiring call centers, they're emailing for updates, they're not getting updates, and what we've done is actually pull all that together from a technological perspective. We built our own platform, our own API integrations. We have a really smart team over here that's just doing that all day, every day, and that took us a long time to build, and we're finally starting to get to put that in people's hands, and the results are absolutely phenomenal. So that's a little bit about Lexamica, what it does, and here's a little bit about me. So as you would expect, I'm an art school graduate, which is super fun. I love doing art at school, and it's given me a real eye for design and for being able to look at things from a design perspective. I spent 8 years in nonprofit operations and fundraising up in New Jersey. That was a wonderful experience, and I would say to anyone who wants to hire a salesperson, if you meet someone who's done nonprofit fundraising, you should hire them as a salesperson, because that's basically the hardest sales job that you can find is raising money for a nonprofit. So really good experience. And as a quick sidebar, like I'm segueing seamlessly into it, but this is more of like the narrative side. Like this is the part where I'm like, hey, this is our journey. I'm not prescribing any of this, but I love hearing these stories from other people, so this is my part. So if I'm glossing over stuff, you want more, I want to, raise your hand and tell me what you want to know. And then I moved into law firm management. Technically, it was 3.5 years, Josh. I know, not 4.
Seemed like 18 months.
And so Josh hired me when I moved back to Arkansas, and I worked in his practice, which is largely wage and hour, so plaintiff side law. and started to understand this space. I knew nothing about it, but just found it totally fascinating. I'm a serial wannabe entrepreneur, which means that I have successfully not started a lot of businesses in my life. The jury's still out on this one. I think we're officially started, but I've always had ideas of just running notes on things that could be better and could be done. And now I'm a legal tech founder, so like this is me. There's like, you can go look at my resume and it makes just as much sense. But like I just like figuring out things that are fascinating, and each of these things has come organically out of the next. And I think for a lot of people, they're like, well, I need this resume. It's like, no, you actually don't. Like you can go do things that you're interested in for your entire life. Just be interested in stuff. Be a serial wannabe entrepreneur. Also, I'm not this tan IRL. It's the middle of the winter. So just in case anyone was curious. So the first thing is that how did we come up with the idea for Lexamica? Like I said, it's a pretty esoteric space, and it sounds, in retrospect, potentially obvious, but it actually took about 3 years before I even started to realize that this was an industry-wide issue. So when I came into the law firm, we were solving a lot of internal operational issues. We were hiring staff in, we were building out technology, we moved into Salesforce to manage cases for the firm. And then once we kind of got the handle on those things, we realized there's this big gap across the whole industry for the referral space. So like for us, it was this personal pain where these law firms would email us stuff, and they would send us stuff from random platforms, and then they would call us and say, hey, did you get this thing? And we'd be like, yes, of course we got it, but like your platform won't let us respond to it, so this is terrible, but you're like really bothered. Like somebody literally faxed us. Anna can tell you, because she also worked at the law firm. This is my mom, shout out to my mom. That she would get faxed PDFs of asking for referral updates from law firms that like were doing like massive volume. Like it was so crazy. So we were like, okay, this has to be better. And then we started getting out of the office, and I like bought a ticket to this conference for a legal tech platform called FileVine, which we didn't use, never had no intention of using, but it was their user conference, and so it sounded cool. And we just went, Josh and I, and we were like, hey, this sounds really cool. And then we were like, we went there and saw all of these people that were doing really cool legal tech stuff, and that was eye-opening. Getting out of the office, like we knew what we knew about legal tech and about running law firms, and then being in this space, like everybody's forward thinking was like, okay, maybe we can actually do something here. So that was where we had the idea at the beginning for maybe actually building a technology stack. And then we started doing some early validation of the idea and talking to law firms and asking for their input. And I think what's one of the big outcomes that I saw in this was like there are two camps of people. There were the cheerleaders who were like, this is an amazing idea, like I've thought about this for 2 years and somebody's gonna do this and it's gonna be great. And that's one camp of people. And the other camp was, oh man, I tried this 10 years ago and I built it and it's never gonna work, I guarantee you. Like I know from personal experience because I'm a lawyer and I tried to build a tech platform and that validates the fact that it's never gonna work, right? So two very different camps of people early on, but like, you have to decide, like, is this something that you think has enough value for the people that it has value for? And the naysayers actually don't matter. Like, we've moved on past those people, and now we have people who are fully bought in on this, and so it doesn't matter if 50% of people think it's a bad idea, if 50% are like, yeah, I'm in. So those are two big camps. This is where I've got a person for each slide because team is super important, and Josh has a slide because he and I started Lexamica together, and he brought me into the legal industry, so that was a big deal, and he and I are on the road selling Lexamica now, so that's the first part of the team. So then the question is, well, what is an MVP anyway? And for those of you who are new to business, an MVP is a minimum viable product, which means like what is the thing that can give a business value as a product. So started on the project really from the wrong end. I hired a contract developer to start building, and in retrospect, I would have hired a designer to start designing and testing this out. So if you're going to start a tech company, start with the designer first. If they know how to use Figma, that's a great sign, and if they don't, you should never hire them. That is the tool for the industry. They can build working prototypes of your business idea, and then you can take that out to customers. We spent an embarrassing amount of money building something that we basically then, well, Jonathan is continuing to develop out of because it just wasn't the right thing early on. And so, big lesson learned, and you're getting that for free. You're welcome. And I learned it now too, so it's good. We moved on past it. So that was a big learning step here. Like we started the contractor because like I think I understand the problem well enough, but I didn't yet know. Another part of it was we got our first hire, which is Jonathan. The picture will be up here in a second. And then also there's this whole tension between building, prototyping, and selling, and it's kind of a triangle, and it never totally goes away because you're always learning how to make the product better to add more value to the customer, and then building that and adding it and then selling that. So it is this feedback loop, but especially early on, there was a lot of tension of like, well, should we just start building this thing, or should we spend more time designing and prototyping, or should we be actually trying to sell this and put it in customers' hands and then get real feedback? And so that tension was very real for us. I'm not sure that we got the order right. Like we are past it now, but if you're in the space, like I can relate, like it's really hard to know at what point you stop designing and start building, and what point you stop building and start selling, so that you can keep doing that process. So I think MVP is a lot trickier than I thought it was. Like I read all the books on like, here's an MVP, and I was like, oh cool, and then I just totally got it wrong. Like it was not at all what I expected, and I think we could have got a lot more hands-on, but we did get Jonathan. He was our first hire, so Jonathan's actually the first employee of Lexamica, not me, not Josh. Josh is still trying to get a job. So then we started, like the big inflection point for us was meeting our angel investor, Glenn Lerner, who's a big plaintiff's attorney in Phoenix, Arizona, and we sat down with him, and we had all these conversations, and we've done some prototyping, and that was great. And then I sat down for a meeting with Glenn just over a year ago, and we didn't know Glenn, we were just meeting him, we love building relationships. And we sat down, and 5 minutes into the meeting, we're like, hey, we've been working on this thing called Lexamica, it's a referral platform. He's like, I'm in. And this is Glenn, like he's either in or he's out. And he's like, I'm in. And so 2 weeks later, we had closed a deal and we had gotten funded. So he was the reason why this thing initially took off. Like we'd been kind of like doing bits and pieces, but that was the moment. I wish Mike Smith were here because he leads our CEO forum that I'm part of, and some of the other entrepreneurs in the community, and he was watching it, and I was like, Mike, we're gonna go out and raise some money, and we meet every month. And he's like, okay, cool, yeah, that's gonna take you 6 to 9 months. And I come in the next meeting, he's like, Mike, I raised the money, and he's like, what is going on? Like, this is insane, like nobody does that. It's like, it was weird, okay? Like, it was not normal. So definitely don't look to our story as like how you get funding for a startup, because that was just like dropped out of heaven and onto us. But the team came together. We got to hire our designer. We got to hire a couple more engineers. Andrew came on board. Sorry, Andrew, you don't get the slide. Glenn does. But Andrew came on at that point, and we started off really building in earnest.
Was Glenn one of many, or did you know or have a good feeling he would be funding this? Was there a particular reason you targeted him?
I did not target him. It was just total serendipity. I mean,
We should have.
That makes us sound like we could have been smarter, but I mean, really, it was just we took a meeting with the guy, and we just, and it just happened to work out. Thank you for asking a question. 5 points. So I got to become an entrepreneur, basically lifelong dream, which was really, really cool. And that's when I left the law firm full time and started working on this. So I'm not giving a lot of dates, but from beginning of prototyping, so I think we incorporated it on like December 15th of 21, and then we met Glenn like December of 22, so that was a year, and we were just really slow rolling it, and then funding was January 17th of 23. So we're just, like this, to me, this is day 0, and that's why I'm calling the talk 365 days, because this is really when we started. Before that, it was just, working on the background. Jonathan was, chipping away at it, and this was, all right, now we're off to the races. We got a team, we're going. So from there, January to June, we just built and worked and prototyped it and realized like how far away we were from a true MVP, and that was a long thing. But this is our first conference. This is the photo. Me and Jonathan in Houston at the conference in June. Josh is taking the photo, so he's in the picture.
I didn't wait till you looked at the camera.
Oh, anyone can tell you, I have this thing where I can't, like, my eyes are either closed or looking away from every single picture. But yeah, so that's our first booth. It was really exciting. It was a big deal. We stood on the floor and we shook hands and we made as many connections as we could. And just like everything we've done is like, hey, we don't know what we're doing, but we're just going to do it because we think that's what we're supposed to be doing. And then we figure out later how to do it better. This slide is called Never Stop, Never Stopping because, like I said, like you just have to like, for me, the principle is to learn to be like totally convinced of the vision, right? Which is like this space has tons of value that we can do so much for law firms that are doing referrals, and then basically everything else we have to just be totally willing to be wrong about that. And so a few examples of how we were wrong with the platform, and I'll try to articulate them in a way that's not like just like inside baseball. But one of them was initially, we thought, hey, this thing, because it's a network, and because zero friction is our North Star, there should be zero friction to onboarding onto the platform. We're gonna make it like incredibly easy. People would just invite their friends. And then what we learned is, well, that's terrible because no one actually knows how to use the platform. And so if they come on it and let the law firm invite someone else, then that person over there just ignores all the emails. They probably don't even get delivered. So zero friction being the North Star, it actually turned out that we needed to build walls to improve quality. And so that was a big like mental shift for us where it's like the vision stays the same, but the execution totally different than we initially thought. We thought, yeah, we're going to sync all the data between law firms. This is going to be amazing. We're going to create this whole standard protocol. And then we ended up using this automation tool called Zapier, and it's worked out really, really well. And we're really glad that we bet on that early on because law firms just need to be able to do like a simple data push. And we're still keeping the big vision of like syncing data and automation out there, but we had to scale it way back to reality, and that's worked incredibly well. Another thing was we built one application for Lexamica. Jonathan and I got on a plane after our first conference and we're like, you know what? We need two apps. There's law firms that are referring cases out and there's law firms that are acquiring them. And for 12 months, nothing has made sense because we had it all shoved into one box and it actually needs to be two different things, right? So it's like, look, we're sitting here thinking about this whole thing all day, every day. And I just want you to know, like, we have been wrong already, like, dozens of times. And so it's like this total commitment to the vision and the space, but at the same time, you have to be able to be wrong constantly, just fix it and change it, and like, no ego, right? Like, you just can't be tied to anything on the micro level. And then the big one where, you know, I think we just got past this one and we're moving maybe even, you know, to another iteration of that, is, you know, I thought we were going to be selling technology. Well, law firms don't want to buy technology, but they're willing to pay a lot of money for marketing. And so, like, even my first slide in the deck was about marketing, not about technology. I was so stoked to be running a tech company. Lawyers don't like tech companies. They don't want to pay us any money. So to lawyers, we're a marketing company, and to everybody else, yes, we are a tech company. So these are some of the pivots that we've had to make and iterate. Another big thing that we encountered along the way, is from April until today, is that like nothing really matters until you get it in the customer's hands. Like you can have all these ideas, all these thoughts, Andrew's nodding, like you know it. Like the best thing that happened to us was putting it in customers' hands and it not working very well. Because we did so much, like the 2 weeks after we launched, we were so productive, right? Like just readjusting everything around, like what did the customers need? Like the stuff that was gonna break, broke, and the stuff that didn't have value, we got rid of. We added 3 features from our alpha testing law firm that like are like core to our thing today. And that's all because we just put it in people's hands and let them say, here, this sucks. This is absolutely terrible. And we didn't charge some of our early customers, and that feedback, though, has been incredibly valuable. But like, as long as, when it's in your head, when it's a prototype, all that doesn't matter until you've got a customer who's like, my business depends on this. My business depends on this, and if you don't do X, then I can't use the platform anymore. And that's the MVP part. So we really launched the product on October 1, so we're about 120 days live. This has been like the most fun part of the whole company, right? Because like everything is guided by how do we add more value to law firms? How do we make them money? How do we make them happy? And we're getting real feedback. And Tyler is in the corner over there. He's our head of success. He came on about a month before we launched, and that was an incredible timing, incredible hire. People love Tyler, and all the stuff that doesn't work on the platform or needs to be explained or trained, like you should just have somebody who can fill that gap until you can build systems. That's the Tyler bullet there. And then we found, and the most encouraging thing was we found that we're actually creating great value for the customers. Like we're getting the cases through, we're getting leads through, and they're signing cases, and those cases have actual value. And so that's like the most exciting part is when you build and build and build and build and build, and then it's like, it works. And even though like everything is like kind of like falling apart and you're just like holding it together, but like you still see it adding value to customers, like that's really like, that is where you've started having a business. And so that was October 1. And so we're just still learning from paying customers, and that's adding tons and tons of value here. Those are all slides that I just kind of went over. So looking ahead, what are we doing now? So like we're 120 days post-launch, and things have smoothed out a lot. Like there were a lot of bumps right at the beginning, and things are a little smoother. Now we've like got our feet under us on truly a minimum viable product, which is creating value for our customers. And now we get to think about the fun stuff that we've dreamed about, which is adding AI components to it and adding, more sophisticated matching tools and all the things that we thought at the beginning were going to be like right out of the box. We have to go and actually just like build the basic stuff. And now we can have more fun with it. We can raise money to go to market with it. And we're building our sales machine, our sales team. So our head of sales started on Monday, and super excited to have her on board. I'm getting like a crash course in all the stuff I'm doing wrong, selling it. It's like the greatest thing ever. I love it because it's getting better. Talk about adding the features post MVP.
Tell them how much in attorney's fees are moving through the platform each week.
Yeah, so right now we have really 3 law firms that are pushing leads out to other law firms. So 3 on one side, about 145 on the other. And we're generating on average about $150,000 of attorney fee value every single week. So it's really, really working. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah.
So, the question normally is how do you make money, but in this case, how do you charge?
Yeah, so
you talk about creating value, but in what form do you charge?
That's a great question. I kind of skimmed over it. We have a monthly subscription model. So we charge the law firms that are referring out the cases because their ongoing day-to-day cost of not sending out those leads, not helping those clients is very high. So there's this urgency to their business model where you can say, did you get a call last month and you said no to somebody? That was money that you threw down the drain. You need to buy Lexamica. And so those people, they sign up $500, $200,000, or $5,000 a month, depending on the feature set, and it's pretty granular, but that's what they're buying. And then the law firms on the other side, we're asking them to go way above and beyond what any law firm's ever done in terms of transparency about their cases, plugging in their API, giving data back to us. So that's kind of how they pay for now. That side is free. So some of the lessons that we figured out along the way, misunderstanding the MVP, like I think we could have done more on like just like the human side of like North Starring off of value creation for law firms. I think we could have gotten that out earlier for people, built more of the tech on the back end after we had figured that out. And so I think that was a tricky one. Technology, like I said, so technology could have taken a little bit more of a backseat to design and business validation. I love technology. It was really hard not to just start building stuff. But next time, it starts with design, and then you go out and you start to, and it starts as design, and then you do the work manually, and then you start to build the technology. So I'm going to make Jonathan's life a lot easier on the next round. The grand vision for integration in this platform in the marketplace is still there. Like we're still doing this, and that's what like brings, that's the joy for me is like getting to work on this over the next 5 years. But we still have to create the immediate value for the customer so that they buy and stay on the platform. And so those 2 things have to be held together at the same time. Like we get to do little bits and pieces toward the long vision while just keeping everybody making money on the platform and coming back for more. What I care about and customers care about, this is very similar. It's like those things can often be really different. Like I'm excited about this grand vision. Lawyers, they need to run their businesses, and I need to be able, like I have to communicate that to them in a way that they understand, not in the way that I'm excited about. Relationships are everything, right? So, Josh bringing me on as a personal relationship. Some of my best hires are personal relationships. Me and Glenn was a relationship. Like the thing too, like that I think that I'm going to be doing based on this is like getting out of the office, taking every call I can, meeting every person outside of my existing network, because like everything that's good that's come from here has come from meeting people, from getting to know people, building those relationships, and not worrying about like the outcome from that meeting, but saying like, I'm just trying to meet the best people that I can all the time. Like that's basically my entire strategy here, and I do think that there is something prescriptive in that. Like, don't think that just because you're like building technology or a business that like it's not about people still. It's just about people. That's always what it is. And then out of the office is where the big changes, the big meetings, the big new relationships are. Like in our space, conferences are expensive, but just going to 1 or 2 conferences that just changed everything for us. Like get out of the office, find a conference, find something you can go to where you meet people, you get a different perspective on things. Like every good product idea, Jonathan and I coming back on the plane, like even the plane rides back from conferences into conferences are where my best meetings happen. Just stop doing email all the time. Stop like sitting there staring at a computer if you need to have new ideas. So those are the things that I've learned along the way. It's been a fantastic journey. Like I said, we're just getting started. This is incredibly exciting. Really grateful to have Venture Center have me here and get to talk about it. But this is the team. Like I'm the guy who talks about stuff, and I joke with them like all I do is sell. I sell to them to come join the company. I sell to them to build a product. I sell to whoever to do whatever. These are the guys actually building this stuff and doing the stuff. I just learned sales because my mom is basically a salesperson too, and that's what she taught me, and that's all I got. So thank you so much.
How'd you come up with the name?
2 a.m. at a conference. Just couldn't sleep and iterated through. I actually don't really love the name because no one knows how to say it. Everyone's like, well, how do you say this? I'm like, exactly. So, I guess the nice thing is it creates mental friction, so people are more likely to remember something that's hard to say. So there's probably some upside there, but I wouldn't do that.
And they've been really apologetic when they mispronounce it. I'm like, no big deal, but why don't you sign up?
Yeah.
Question, when you said right now already you've got the 3 referring companies and you've got over 100 that are taking the cases.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself at some point needing to be in an evaluative mode with analytics on those ones that take cases as do they win or don't they? Or is there some piece to this that eventually you're going to have to, because you'll have massive numbers and some will do it really well and those referring companies want them to win, right? Is that going to be part of the vision?
Oh, that's already there. I mean, we have internal analytics monitoring tools that we built out. Andrew's done some fantastic work building internal dashboards, weekly statistics on how quick are law firms to respond, what's their sign rate, how many cases are being sent to which law firms, which ones are expiring. That's more me and Tyler's side of things. Part of what we're doing, once we close the seed round, we're going to hire someone whose whole job is just to go solve the law firms not responding quickly enough issue. The bottom line being value creation. Literally the bottom of our scorecard is how much value did we make for law firms this week? And so that's it, right? Like everything falls down into there. But yeah, absolutely, we're tracking it from day one, and we have to. Yeah.
I'm wondering, obviously you recruited the referring firms. Did they bring on all of the other firms, or are those your people? Like, are you being a matchmaking service, or is that in the future plans? Like, how is that working?
Yeah, we're absolutely matchmaking. It's a virtuous cycle, and we had to kickstart a little bit by starting with the firms on the demand side. In every marketplace, you have the chicken and egg problem. You start with supply or demand. We started with demand. We could sign law firms up, and a lot of them are still kind of latent on the platform. But we started signing up the demand side firms because there's no like overhead. They sign up, they get verified, and then when they get sent a case, it's ready to go. So once we had a critical mass of that, then we started bringing on more of the firms to refer out cases, because for them, I have to promise them if you send a case out, someone's going to look at it. So yeah, we started, and I think our critical mass was somewhere around like 70, 80 firms, and it's like, okay, we can start to create value for the firms on the referring side, but the virtuous cycle is now every time we bring on a new referring firm, which is Tyler's job, they invite all their partner firms, and so we get to upgrade the whole system for everybody who's involved. That's network effect. That's like the magic of doing a platform.
And we were really lucky on the alpha testing. We could have a firm that didn't have preset expectations about how much value they should be getting from their referral partners, because we kind of spun it up as a response to the opportunity that the software created. Yeah.
So in the Are there no geographic limitations to this thing? Does it not make a difference that the firm that actually does the work is in Seattle and the issue is in Atlanta or something? I mean, so the cases really aren't being worked by a lawyer and his dog and his son?
Well, those are two things. Okay. First of all, Josh doesn't have a dog, okay?
That's why he's doing this.
That's really two questions. So one, it is geographically unbounded in part because a lot of the claims that lawyers can't take are ones that are out of state. And so there's value very early on. The hardest cases for those advertising firms to place are the ones where they're out of state and out of jurisdiction because they don't know those people. To your second part, we just do a big background check, verification, interview process with each law firm that wants to join so that we can assert to the originating firm, no, it's not a guy and his dog, this law firm is legit.
So do you make the decision then about, okay, this is a match?
That's right. We do the matching.
Say, I'll take it.
It's a curated network, so we verify and then recommend and then match in real time the lawyer with the lead. Yeah.
Is there an opportunity for some of these receiving companies to give you a kickback for first right of refusal?
Well, they could technically, but one of our pitch is that we are a totally objective, neutral intermediary, and that both sides should trust that we are just looking for the best interest of the matchmaking service. So no, we would never do a first right of refusal because in our industry, especially like you've got like Super Lawyers and Avo and Lawyers.com, and those are all pay to play. And so nobody trusts that any of those services are legit because they just know that like you're gonna get placement if you pay for it. And our thing is like, you're gonna pay us to be objective and to just look out for the best interests of the law firms that are referring out claims. And those law firms want just to go to the best firm on the litigation side. Yeah.
What's that conversion journey if I'm on the receiving end of these referrals, but then try out the platform and believe in the product to convert to be one of the referral? Because you mentioned two different apps, so curious how you guys are merging that.
I mean, that was like the question of the day today with our new sales lead, like talking to her about like how do we want to do that, because we get the trust of the law firm that's onboarding their partner firms, and we have to like, we can't, the most important thing is not to betray that trust. Like they're not going to send us their list of partners and then want us to go and sell all of those people. So it's about bringing them on gently, you know, making good on the promise that we made of like, hey, we're going to bring your referral partners to the table and train them and onboard them. And then we haven't gotten to the second part yet, right? And that's what I'm exploring with our sales lead and with Tyler, who's our success lead, is how do we invite them into that without betraying the trust of, you know, the original person that brought them to the network? Because like the worst thing to do would be to have them invite their partners and say, oh, well, this is just like a sales scam. This is like, we don't want to feel like that trust is being betrayed.
But I think it's naturally going to happen, right? Once they start using the product. And in that case, as it stands currently, would I have to have like two different apps or interfaces to receive versus send? Like, how does that work?
Oh, that question. So it's all the same login, and you can just toggle between the two apps. So it's all very much connected. It's just to different user interfaces. So it's just a toggle on the back end to say, hey, now you can refer cases. That's very easy. Yeah. Josh, you had to.
Oh, I just want to say that one of the things that's different about the legal space is that for every other business in the U.S., you could just advertise when you wanted to. Advertising for lawyers was illegal until 1974, 77, or something like that, when the U.S. Supreme Court made it legal. And lawyers have been scrambling behind the curve since then to catch up with everyone else. Now, they're definitely over the top, and you see them on TV all the time. The reason they're there is because of the margins. But what we've done through this platform is enable people who are good at advertising to monetize value all over the country. And so before, like Abraham Lincoln hung out a shingle, right? You've heard that expression. And so if you didn't walk by the shingle, you wouldn't know about him. But now people can advertise digitally all over the US and aggregate cases and then place them with the people that they trust to do business with. And we are that space. And I think we're at the front end of a larger trend where in the legal space, there is a growing bifurcation between people who can generate cases and people who can litigate them. And we want to be the marketplace where those exchanges are happening. And before, those exchanges didn't happen. If you signed up a case, you litigated it. If you didn't sign it up, you didn't even know about it.
I have another question. So I have two different questions, but completely and utterly different, so I'm gonna ask them completely separately. First one is, so on your analytics in terms of like, how good is this firm, right? Or how good am I referring out to? Are you collecting data just from I mean, I would expect you are, but I don't know, just from the cases that are referred, so it's building, or are you collecting data from like Court Connect or something like that about, you know what I mean? Like, my best friend, fantastic litigator, but I bet she's not on your company. I know she isn't, because I just texted her and asked her. And so, I mean, right? So I just asked her, I'm like, have you heard of these guys? And she's like, no. And so how do you value somebody like that when they come in as a new player on the receiving end of referrals?
Yeah. I mean, we are operating inside the constraints of reality, unfortunately.
So sad.
I know. Which means that there's a lot of like human judgment and relationship components to it still, like reputation in the community. This person have a reputation as a good litigator. I think we have enough relationships now that we can do a pretty good job of evaluating that, but I would like to be a lot less judgment-based and a lot more data-based. So, Court Connect, Pacer type, I've thought about, asking law firms for data dumps on all the cases that they've sent, and we can, parse through those to get some more criteria. But frankly, it's just hard, and part of the reason is, like, every case actually is different. You can be a terrible attorney and luck out on a fantastic case. You can be a great attorney and not have great cases because maybe you don't know how to market that well for yourself. So at the end of the day, we and attorneys will be glad to hear this. They're not being replaced by algorithms when it comes to like how good an attorney is. I think in the long run, some of this will be, or maybe a lot of it will be driven just by like the reputation, the social component. I think we're more likely to add like a review process to the platform than we would to try to like tap into APIs that don't really tell us that much. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly a space that like we've just started to scratch the surface of, and right now it's pretty hands-on curated.
That's like really hard to scale.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's incredibly hard to. It is until you start to add platform components like peer reviews that actually matter, or post-case reviews, or client reviews, and then it becomes platform and governance become the way that you scale it out. Yeah. But I love that you're bringing the platform.
Yeah, our initial paying customers are onboarding their receiving firms, and so they already trust them to a certain degree. But now we're giving them visibility into that. So like, you can conceive of the problem as saying, oh, well, you don't actually know if these people are good. But what we're doing instead is saying to the people who are referring out cases, we're now about to show you whether or not the people you already referred to are good. Mm-hmm. So your question makes perfect sense, but we actually are coming in from the opposite direction.
And then are you guys considering, because legacy law is not high tech, and I would imagine that the firms that have digitized most of their records and whatnot, those have an office manager, they have a team doing this, so you've kind of got a delineation. Has an office manager, therefore is high tech, there is highly likely to accept our technology. There's probably this other group of individual contributor, runs his own law practice. If you consider additional like managed services, or even, hey, we will actually give you a turnkey model where we'll onboard you, we'll call you, we'll be your office manager for our platform for an additional fee.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've definitely thought about that. I mean, I think that's down the road because there's a ton to be done with the straight tech side. But yeah, I mean, that delineation does exist, and the big one is like, are you on one of these big, on the cloud-based practice management systems, which we haven't really talked about, but Litify, Fileline, Lead Docket, Smart Advocate are in the cloud with APIs. Like, if you've gone through that digital transformation, then you're much more likely to be interested in what we have to offer, and we can also plug in better. So yes, I mean, and down the road, but I also think that like those people have already made choices to not digitize.
Yeah.
And so that says a lot of other things about their business. We were having dinner with an attorney a couple weeks ago who said, I mean, his law firm is doing okay, but he's like, yeah, I walked into somebody's office yesterday and he was typing up a memo on a typewriter. Like, that was like 3 weeks ago. I don't want that person as a client. Like, they're like, that says a lot about the way that they're doing business. So, if we touch them, it would be a long time from now. Yeah.
What tools are you using for data analytics?
For data analytics, we are using Retool, which plugs directly into our database, and then we don't have to build UI components. We're just going straight into our database and doing a bunch of data analytics. It's not quite as sleek as our front end for customers, but we can spin stuff up. Like Andrew can build me a dashboard in like 30 minutes or an hour, no UI components, no front end, because it just plugs right into Mongo, which is amazing. Yeah, and it does that's a document database, it's a SQL transformation without us touching it. No, you're writing transformations, and then that's being delivered to the dashboard.
Did you learn that tech stuff, or you got a background in tech? Or?
You saw my resume, man. I just picked this stuff up. That's one of the takeaways. Is like, just learn it. You just figure it out. I mean, I don't write the code. I've learned enough to learn how to talk to Andrew really well and Jonathan pretty well. Because Jonathan's full stack and Andrew's front end. So the further down the stack you go, the more you start to lose me. But learning the language is the first step. Like learning how to talk to people in the space.
Any other questions? And this is my other question.
Okay.
So, recovering investment banker, now working a nonprofit. So, but in terms of your next funding round, you said you're doing some seed funding. From an entrepreneur, I'm not going to ask to reveal your prospectus or whatever, but from an entrepreneurial standpoint, what are you looking for? How much are you looking to raise? What is it going to support? What are your investors getting? Kind of in a general, right? Because the dream for most entrepreneurs is either stay private or start selling out and eventually go public or whatever. And unless you're an heiress or an heir, you're going to need to raise some money. So can you talk about that aspect of it when you don't just have learner fall in your lap and give you a bunch of money? What's your strategy and what are you looking for there?
Yeah. And Learner came in as, I would say, like a large end on Angel, right? So it's not that
You said
great
you were
guy.
already a year in.
Say what?
You were already a year in when you met us, right? So you were
Already in.
No, a year in.
Oh, a year in.
you were already a year in,
Yeah.
right?
We hadn't spent very much on that. We're doing a seed round now, so low single millions on the ask. But we're very much on that. We're going to take that, build to a Series A, B, and go from there. I think ultimately in our space it's esoteric enough. I think that the TAM, the total market, is small enough that we would look to be exiting out to private equity at the end. That's pretty common for legal tech companies. Only Disco has gone public. They're Discovery out of Boston. I don't know. I mean, Clio didn't, but they're a Series E. But I think, for us, we're not riding a golden chariot. We are raising the way that we got a nice angel who did the round. That was awesome. But we're doing the tech startup thing at this point and raising a seed to build the sales and marketing out and then parlay that into the goal would be somewhere over 12x multiple in the seed round in about 18 months. Yeah. And and legal tech is getting some really great multiples. One of the, again, relationships, there's a guy that I know who's about 18 months ahead of us in the space, selling similar products, so I'm watching his journey, and then there's a guy who's done two start to finish companies in legal tech, and so I've gotten to know him pretty well, and he's on a B on his second company, so watching them is incredible, because it's okay, I can know how to build a lot of this trajectory out.
Yeah, that's been pretty clubbish. Everyone's glad to have us there. It's surprisingly it's surprising to me how everyone kind of comes alongside us and wants to be a part of it because they're not directly competitive with us. Yeah.
Anybody else? Last call. I'll have a question to wrap us up and ask for your audience or those that watch in the future if we are to post this. What are your needs?
Right now, I'm trying to over-index on relationships, so like, I'd love to hear from you. Like, I don't, I was thinking about coming to do the talk this evening. Like, I don't know what the attendance is gonna be like. It doesn't actually matter. I just want to meet one person who has some interest in this, and that's enough. Like, that's always been enough. So, just reach out. My contact info is here. I'd love to meet you. Like, we're gonna be hiring this year, we're raising money, but like, you just might be interested in this, and I'd love to like get a Zoom, get a coffee, and that's plenty.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so
having me.
much.
Yeah.